Hey folks, going to be doing a video today on an overview of Mosaic, a story of civilization. I have the game halfway set up here already, but I wanted to go over a few other things before I go and finish the setup. Probably going to try to do a solo game. The game does come with solo rules, um, where you play against an autonomous player. So look for that video in the coming days as well. But anyways, so this is the game board. This is actually the mat. Um, so it's not the cardboard that comes in the box. This is a separate mat that I got for the game. The colors are a little bit more vibrant, in my opinion. I like the way it looks better. The board, the cardboard board, is a little faded, but it is what it is. So that being said, setup. A few things that we will need to do. One is everybody's going to need to choose a player board. And player boards are just the color of the player. They have the name of the nation up here in the top left. This is Egypt. Each player is going to choose their color. It doesn't, Egypt doesn't have to start in Egypt, so to speak. Egypt can start wherever. You're just expanding your civilization, essentially. You're going to take cubes to track your resources. You're going to take extra cubes to fill in the 10, 20, and 30 slots if you gather that many resources. And you're going to start with 5 population. These are the single population guys. If I can get that to focus. There we go. A little bit, kind of. And then these are the 5-point population guys. So miniature is slightly larger. You're also going to take a city, a starting city. So this is a regular city here. You are also you're gonna have a whole well of components of infantry guys, cavalry, siege engines, more workers, etc. But you're also going to have 3 other different types of cities. This one up here is the farm. This is the manufacturing city, and then this is the port city. They do all come unpainted, but they are in the color of each player. Let me see if I can grab a here's an infantry guy. If I can get it to focus. It's not going to focus. A little bit there, I guess. Anyway, that's an infantry guy. That comes in the larger size for to indicate there's 5 infantry at a location. Same thing with the cavalry. So those are going to be all your pieces. Everybody's going to choose a board. You're going to start with 5 population. You're going to have your cubes. You're going to put one of your guys out on the scoring track at the 0 or at the actually they probably start off the track because that's 1 point, so we could start them up there. Everybody's going to have one of their guys set off to calculate on their track. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your tokens, and now I have a lot of this already set up, but you're going to get your fish tokens here. These are they've got a picture of a fish, and it says +3. And basically, when you take this token, you're going to increase your food production by 3. But they go out on the board everywhere there's a port, and to indicate where a port is on the board, there's a picture of a ship. So you're going to put those out first. Then these darker brown tokens, these are the what do they call them? They call them the cash tiles. These are all face up right now, but you're gonna take them and you're gonna put them face down, and you're gonna shuffle them up. You're gonna mix them up, and then you're gonna put one of these out on each of the locations that has the cash tile symbol. It looks kind of like a little compass rose, almost like or a star. You're just gonna put them face down on there. Then you're gonna flip them over. It sort of randomizes them. Then you're going to do the same thing with all of the other trade goods tokens. And the trade goods tokens are going to have a mix of resources on them or an X. Again, you're going to put them face down. You're going to shuffle them up. You're going to mix them up. Then you're going to put them out on the board face down in every completed hex. So there are hexes out on this map. Some of them are easier to see than others, but if it's a complete hex with all 6 sides, you get to you're going to put a token there. Some of the completed hexes go off the bottom of the board and they're covered up, but they do get tokens there. So just be aware of that. And there are some hexes that are sort of out in the middle. I mean, there's a little bit of land there, but there's more water. There's definitely more water here, but there's a completed hex. So you're going to want to fill all of those out, but only in the hex spaces. You are going to have some left over that you will set aside or put in the back in the bag. Then you're going to flip them over just like you did the cash tiles. You can also do the cash tiles at the same time as you do the trade goods. And you're going to remove anything that has an X. You're just going to remove it. So we'll just pull off all of these X's here real quick. I say real quick, it's going to take me a minute. So I think what I'll do is just pause, and then we'll come back and they'll all be revealed. Or they'll all be removed. And just like that, they're all removed. And this is what we are left with. So all of the X's that were on the back of the tokens have been removed, and we are just left with the resources. They are randomly distributed out on the board, and so it's going to make for a unique setup for every game. And basically, you're going to want to build your cities on locations with these resources, because if you build on the resource, you get to take the resource and get what it is. The dark brown tokens, the cash goods, are a one and done, so they're going to you're going to get them, and then they're going to go back into the box. The regular trade goods are actually, you will get the resource if it's a resource, or if it's just a particular trade good, like if it's the green fabric or some wood. You're going to get that, and it's going to go over. It's going to go over onto your board in the trade goods section, and you're going to keep track. And this is going to come into play when you do a tariff action. You're going to get essentially more money for the more unique trade goods you have in your network, in your city, or in your civilization, rather. Now that that's done, we have to create the decks. So actually, I probably should have just stayed over here. Each deck, and so here's the technology, back of the technology deck. Each deck has one of these Empire scoring cards. There are 4 decks, and each one has one of those Empire scoring cards. One of the things that triggers the end game is when the 3rd Empire scoring card comes out. The other thing that triggers the end of the game is if 2 of the 3 tile achievement. I'll get to the tiles in a second. The scoring tiles. If 2 of the 3 stacks of those are empty, then it'll also trigger the end game. But what you're going to do, the first deck you're going to start with is the technology deck, and you're going to look for all the starting technology cards, and they have the S in the top left corner right there. There's a whole stack of them. You're going to take those. You're going to shuffle them up. Then you're going to deal 5 out to each player. After you have the 5 out to each player, you're going to have to consult the rule book to find out how to finish the setup for the technology deck. So basically, if you have 2 to 3 players, after you've given out the 5 starting technology cards to each player, you're going to shuffle the remaining starting technology cards into the larger technology deck. So you're going to take whatever's left of the starting technology cards and shuffle them in here. If you have 2 to 3 players, you will no. Well, before you do that, you have to separate that technology deck into three piles, three equal piles. If you have 2 to 3 players, you're going to take your Empire scoring card and you're going to shuffle it into the middle pile. Then you're going to put the top pile on top of the middle pile and the bottom pile on the bottom of the middle pile. If you have 4 to 6 players, you're going to shuffle that Empire scoring card into the bottom pile. So it's going to make your game go longer. So that's how you would set up the technology deck. You're going to do a similar thing for the build deck. So there's the Empire scoring card for the build deck. There are no starting cards for the build deck, though. They're all just regular cards. You're going to shuffle these up. You are going to put them into 2 piles. You're going to shuffle your Empire scoring into the bottom half of the deck, and then you're going to put the top half back on, and you're going to place it out onto the board. There are sections out here for each of the different decks. The build deck is up there, and then you're going to have build cards come out. The population deck is going to go over here. You're going to have population cards come out. Technology deck will go here. You have technology cards come out. And the tax and tariff deck is going down here, and you're going to have those cards come out as well. Similarly, we're going to go to the population deck. So if we reach over here and we get the population deck, again, we have our Empire scoring card and our normal population deck. Again, no starting cards. The only deck that has the starting cards in it are the technology deck. So when you create the population deck, you're going to have to consult the rule book again, because there is a chart depending on how many players you have, and how many cards are put into the population deck. And then you shuffle in your Empire scoring card and put that on the population track, or the population section. You're going to do the same for the tax and tariff cards. There's an Empire scoring card for those, and tariff, and there's tax. There's two sets of two sets. One tariffs and one taxes. And you're going to have the Empire scoring card. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to count out the number of cards per the chart in the book. Then you're going to shuffle in the Empire scoring card. The one thing you do have to make sure about in the tax and tariff deck is that when you do separate it and count out your cards, you want an equal number of tax and tariffs. Then you're going to shuffle it. Then you're going to put your Empire scoring in, and then you'll go from there. That'll complete your decks and getting them all set up. If you play with 2 to 3 players, they're basically Hispania and Gaul are not in play, so the yellow and green, they're out of play. They can't be conquered, they can't be built in, they're not going to have these tokens out here, etc. Then you're going to take your Wonder, Golden Age, and Government tiles. So there's a Government section down here. They're going to go here. These are the Government tiles, and I'll bring them over here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 governments that you could potentially be. The cost is in the bottom left. So, for instance, to be a tyranny government, it requires 2 of this symbol tag. And this symbol is going to show up on cards that you purchase, technology cards, mainly on the technology cards, but it could also be on your specific leader as well. So there is that. So you have to have those 2 tags at least in cards that you have laid out in your tableau, and then you also have to pay 5 knowledge. And then this is the special ability for the technology. Now, once you get the technology for the government, the cost for the government, the special ability for the government, once you get a government, once per game, you can flip the government tile, which has the arrow up there. You can flip that over to the other side, and basically that allows you to wipe one of the rows up here. So one of the they call them the offers. So you can wipe all the build cards out, They go into discard and you get 5 more. You can wipe the 2 population cards out. They go into this discard, you get 2 more. Same thing with technology or the tax and tariff. That's a one-time per game ability for getting a government. But governments basically are going to help you with scoring. So that's the big benefit for them, and you're going to want to probably try to get a government sooner in the game rather than later because you'll get more benefit out of it. But the governments are different. They have different requirements and different costs. This one's 15 knowledge and requires 2 of this symbol and 1 of this symbol. But then during Empire scoring, you will score 2 victory points for each region that contains at least 1 of your cities. So there's that. And these are going to go in the government section. Then we're going to have the wonders. Now these are just what they are. They're the wonders. So you have the Great Pyramids, Hanging Gardens, Lighthouse of Alexandria, Great Library, Colossus of Rhodes, Colosseum of Rome, Temple of Artemis, Stonehenge, and the Sphinx. And so Great Pyramids are just 12 victory points at the end of the game. But there's a requirement. You can only be built in a region with 3 or more cities. Now, that doesn't have to be all 3 of your cities, but you do have to have at least one of those cities be yours. Some of them here will have unrest. You'll see this says 3 unrest. I don't know if that's focused. Yeah, it is focusing a little bit, I guess. 3 unrest, -3 unrest. These are negative victory points at the end of the game if you don't have anything to counteract them. So those are going to go out on the board. You use the same ones each game, and in order to build a wonder, that's going to be, well, we'll get to that when I go through the phases. The other thing you're going to do is get your Golden Age tiles, and these are basically things that are going to be worth victory points at the end of the game. And basically, to claim them, you'll see in the right here, there's the requirement. So you have to have 6 of this symbol, 6 of this symbol, 6 of this symbol. So there's 9 of these tiles. There's 9 of those symbols. I think there's 9 of these tiles. Yes, there's 9 of these tiles. There's 9 different symbols. So basically, when you get to the first player to get 6 of these symbols can take that tile. And for instance, if they take this one with medicine, they will gain 2 population immediately, and then it's worth 6 victory points at the end of the game. So those will be set out. Then you're going to take your civilization achievement cards, and there are tiles, and there are 15 of these. You see the back here, civilization achievement. There are 15 of these, and they basically are different requirements. So this one's 12 tax production. This one is whoever has 60 money, 15 idea production, 12 population, 5 cities, etc. You're going to take these, you're going to mix them up. You're only going to choose 9 of them. So there's always going to be 6 that are out, and that sort of adds some replayability to the game. And then you're going to put those out onto the board in their location above the scoring track. So we'll switch back out over here. So the governments are going down here. You're going to have your wonders on the far right. You're going to have your Golden Age achievements in the middle, and then you're going to have your 9 civilization achievements over there on the left. Then the next thing you do is basically select the starting player, and you can move forward with starting the game. It does not give any rules in terms of selecting the starting player, but dice roll, however you want to do it, whatever suits your fancy. Then after you have selected your starting player, whoever's going to be starting first, you have to determine, you have to select leaders. So the person to the right of the leader, the person that's going to go first, or the first player, they get to choose their leader first. So it basically, if you're going to take the first turn, you're going to get to choose your leader last. And there's a bunch of leader cards here. And they all say what they start with. And then they have a special ability that happens. And then there could be possibly something that happens at the end of the game. However, this one, this is 3 unrest, the artist. And they start with a symbol. So you get this symbol. The engineer starts with a bunch of production, and then here's your gains one production. A gain +1 stone production each time you build a city or port. So every time you build something out on the board, you're going to increase your stone production. And he starts with the engineer, the hammer symbol. And there's a bunch of these. So you just kind of pick the one you want, and then that's going to be the player to the right of the start player. And then they pass it counterclockwise, so it goes back around the table, back to the first player, and the first player is going to get the last choice, essentially. Then you're going to take whatever it says to the start. So, for instance, here, the merchant says start with 30 money, 1 manufactory town, and +5 tariff production. So you would just address that. You would put your manufactory town out on the board. You would take your money and put it in a section where you can hold your money, just a cash somewhere. And then you would increase your tariff production. So you go down here to tariff, and you put your cube up here on 5. You're at 5 tariff production. And then you would hold on to that card. And you're going to want to remember what symbol's on that card, because it is going to be useful for you later. After that, no, I take that back. You will not be able to place that manufactory town yet. You will place it when we get to the phase where we're placing starting cities, which is coming up. The next section is drafting your starting technologies. So everybody's going to start with 5 of those starting technologies. You're going to look at your 5 starting technologies, and you're going to pick one. And after you pick one, you're going to put it face down in front of you. And then you will pass the cards to the players to your left. And you're basically going to keep doing that until you've drafted all the cards, right? So you're not going to start with the 5 cards you're dealt, but you're going to start with one of them because you're going to choose them, but at a minimum. But there's a drafting phase to get those technologies. And so let's take a look at a technology card here real quick. If I can get that to focus. So here's exploration, right? So here's a requirement for exploration. So before you can play exploration, you have to have that symbol on a card already played out or on your leader card. Why won't this focus? Come on. There we go. You have to have that symbol on a card you already played out on your board in front of you. Then there's some text on the bottom that will tell you what you get, and then the bottom right are the 2 symbols that you get when you play that card out. So then you'll see here, this one, there is no requirement. There's no symbol up here for a requirement. And all it does is it gives you +3 food production and gives you these 3 tags, these 3 symbols. So all of the technology cards are like that. Even the non-starting cards are like that. Here's a non-starting vineyard card. There's no S in the top left, so we know it's not a starting card. There's no cost on the right, but if we play it, we would gain 10 gold per farm town when played. So you probably want to play this a little bit later in the game, and then it would give you one of those coin symbols. Once you have your 5 technology cards, your starting technology cards, you're going to want to probably play the ones that you can play. So you basically you play them out and set them out in front of you as cards that you played, and you're going to take whatever the actions is. So if we were to play, if we ended up with the agricultural settlement here, we are going to want to do the +3 food production. We will want to play this for sure, especially since it gives us the 3 symbols down below. If you cannot play a card because you do not have the symbol, you just hold it into your hand face down, and you can play it at a future turn. Playing a card is not an action, so you can do that regardless. During your turn, you can just play it out whenever. It does not count as your action for your turn. So after we do the draft, we are going to play starting cities, and this is where the start player goes first. So they're going to take their city, and they're just going to choose somewhere out on the board to place their city. They're probably going to want to place it on one of these tokens, because when you place it on a token, you get whatever that is. So if I were to place my starting city here, I could place it there, and then I get that token. It's the green silk. Now this is a trade good, so this would go over onto my board, and I would just set it here to indicate I have collected that trade good. There are buildings that you're going to be able to build that say, you know, for each, they'll have 3 symbols on them, and one of them might be the green silk. So if I have those 3 symbols in trade goods over here, then I will score some victory points at the end of the game. If you get a duplicate, if I were to get another green silk, rather than putting it adjacent to it or somewhere else out, I would just stack it on top, so I can just keep track of how many actual unique goods I have. So let's put this back over. Well, let's say that's what I took. That's where I started, right? I'm going to start right here on the boot of Italy. You will take that. If you're not going to be able to put your starting city on a port because it is not a port city. Only port cities can go on ports. So it has to be a non-port city. You could have placed it on a cache. So I could have placed it here and taken this dark brown token, which would immediately give me 6 food. But then this token goes off into the board, off into the box, and I don't keep it. It doesn't go over to your trade goods. Caches are not trade goods. They're just huge amounts of resources you find. That once all the players have done that in turn order, the game is ready to play. And starting with the first player, and you just keep going around and around and around, taking the game round, which I'll go over in a second. You just keep playing game round after game round until either the third Empire scoring card comes out, or 2 of the 3 stacks of tiles up there are empty. When you trigger the end game, you will complete the current round that you're in all the way to the last player, and then everybody gets 1 more turn, and then you go to actual end game scoring. So let's talk about a round. Each player is going to take 1 action of 8 possible actions. You have 8 choices to do, but you only get 1. Many turns you're going to have a hard choice to make, and that's basically due to the cards that are going to come out in the tracks up top here. There are going to be some great cards that come out, and you are going to have to struggle to. There's going to be probably 2 or 3 cards out there that are really great, and you only get to take 1 of them. So you're going to have to think about what would benefit your opponents more. Maybe try to take that if it also helps you, but if it doesn't help you, then you probably don't need to take it. That type of thing. So what are your possible actions? So action number 1 is work, and basically you produce one of the currencies. So your currencies are stone, food, or knowledge. Stone, food, or knowledge, or ideas. It's called ideas. You can produce one of those, and what you do is you look on your production track, and you'll see, okay, how many am I producing? So let's say our stone's up to 2. So you look at your stone track. I want to produce stone. So you'll say, okay, I have 2 stone, and then you add your population. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 population. So I will produce 7 stone. And that just goes into my storage, which is up here or offside, wherever I want to keep it. And that does work. So you always add what your current production level is, plus however many population you have up here when you do a work action. If it was 0, I'd still make 5 stone, if that's how many guys I still have out there. So that's action number 1. Action number 2 is population. So on a population, you're going to look at the two population cards that are up on the top of the board. So let's say that these are the two population cards that are out. Well, they're both the same. Let me find one that's a little different here. There we go. Slightly different. All right. So let's say these two population cards are out to choose from, right? So you're going to pick one. You have to pay either 5. If I can get it to focus. There we go. You're going to pay 5 food to get one population, which gets you another guy out. Or you're going to pay 12 food to get 2 guys out. And that would go, your guys would go here. And then after you would take that, card from one of the 2 stacks there, you would just flip over one of the population cards to refill it, and that would be your turn. Alternatively, we could take the build action. And there are going to be 5 build cards available. And let me get a couple here that we can look at here. The port city. All right, that should be enough. So we'll look at 2 of the basic ones here. So we have the farm town and the manufactory town, right? There's no cost. Wait, no, farm town. Farm town. Some of these cards are free. Yeah, the farm town and the manufactory town are free. There are no costs with them. And when you build them, you gain 5. Well, you do what it says at the bottom, and then you also get the the farm town gives you the food symbol. Manufacturing town doesn't give you any symbols, but this is one of the ones where I was saying you look at your resources. So if you have each of these resources at the end of the game, you get 5 victory points. So that's 2 of them. Then we have a port city and a populous city here. And put those over here. Or hold them over here, I guess. I don't know. Will it focus if I just set them there? It's still too far away for you to read anything really, though. So a port city, there is a cost associated with it. If you build a regular city or a port city, it costs 4 stone and 2 population. But then you would get whatever it says here. And you would also get the symbols that are in the bottom right. When you build a city, you're going to place one of those miniatures out on the board. Out here on the board. If it's a port city, it has to go on a port space, obviously, anywhere. If it's a populous city, you can place that anywhere as well, as long as it's not on a port. If it's a farm or a manufactory city, like the first 2, those have to go... I'm just reading to double check. No, those can go anywhere as well. If you're going to build a town, farm town or a manufacturing town. Yeah, towns. Those the first 2 that I showed. Towns have to go adjacent to cities you have already built. So if I were going to build one of that farm territory town, I would have to build it adjacent to one of the hexes around this city or another city I already have on the board. Alternatively, there are projects. Let me find one of those. There we go. There are projects. And you will see it says project in the top there. Why isn't this thing focusing? There we go. It says project at the top there. And then down here, it's 1 victory point for each of those symbols I have at the end of the game, and it comes with 1 in the bottom right. So at the end of the game, you tally projects at the end of the game, basically. They're worth victory points, depending on what meets the criteria. So those are the buildings. So again, as you build one of those buildings. It's basically the projects are 5 stone and 5 ideas. So you will have to keep that in mind to build a project. To build a city, it's 4 stone and 2 population. So that's where you pull guys off your board. And then the towns are free. Now there is one thing here about always being able to build. You could always build a city, port, or town for the usual cost, even if there's no card at the top. So if you really want to build a port city and there's no port city card out here, you can still build that port city, paying the 4 stone and the 2 population, and you can put that port city here. But you don't get a card for it. You don't get the special symbols at the bottom, and you don't get whatever special ability that card gave you when you built it. But you can always build them. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. So that's the build action. The next action you can do is build a wonder. I showed you all the wonders earlier, or ran through them real quick. They are basically worth victory points at the end of the game. And to start out, each wonder costs a player 20 stone and 5 food. So you will have to spend 20 stone and 5 food to build your first wonder. And there are limitations for the wonders on whether it can and can't be built. Alleviated to that when I showed the pyramids. They have to be built in a area or a region that has at least 3 cities, and one of those cities has to be yours. You can only build a wonder in a region where you have a city. And then you also have to meet whatever other requirements they have. There are a couple that have to be built on ports, or maybe it's just sea spaces. I can't remember if it specifically has to be a port or not. However, the cost to build subsequent wonders then goes up by 5 increments of 5. So your first one is 20 stone, 5 food. Then your next one is 25 stone and 10 food, and so forth and so on. So the more wonders you build, the more it's going to cost you, but it's going to give you victory points at the end of the game. Definitely something you're going to want to keep your eye on. The next thing we can do is technology. So you're going to have that whole technology deck out there, which we already discussed with the starting technologies. So there's going to be 5 of those technology cards out there. They are going to have a cost. So for instance, if we look at military organization here, you see the cost there is 2 of the government symbols and then 1 of the military symbol to play it. Now you can buy these cards, you can buy these technology cards, but you don't have to play them. So even if you don't have these symbols right now, you can still buy this card off of the row and just keep it in your hand face down and just play it later when you have these symbols. So that's an effective strategy. If a good technology card's out there and you know that your opponents want it, you could snatch it up even if you can't play it yet, just to deny them being able to play it. And then you would do, whatever it says at the bottom once you play it, and you get that symbol as well once you play it face up. But you do have to meet these requirements to be able to play it. So how much does a technology card cost? Well, it costs 5 ideas. So that's going to be the scrolls and books. And you basically can pull that card off. It goes into your hand. You can play it immediately for free. You can, any card playing down on your tableau is free. It doesn't count as an action. So you could hoard cards and then maybe play them in order, like you're waiting for a card to get that's going to give you a symbol. You need to play 2 other cards. Then you get that card. You can play that card to give you that symbol immediately, and then you can play the other 2 cards at the same time to cue off that symbol. And then the next action you could take is the tax and tariff action, and that is referenced. That's going to be cards that are down here. So let's grab one of those tax and tariffs cards. So here's a tariff card, and here's a tax card. So let's say these two cards are out here, right? So you're going to have two cards. You're going to get your choice, and we'll just bring them over here so they're easier to see. Here's the tax card. So let's say we choose the tax card. You're going to get money equal to your population. That's how many guys you have on your board, plus however many of that government symbol you have, plus whatever your tax production level is at. However, it's 2 unrest at the end of the game, which is 2 victory points, minus 2 victory points. Here's the tariff card. Tariff. This is going to be, you're going to take however many unique trade goods you have on your board. So that is these. How many unique symbols you have out here. You're going to multiply that by 2. You're going to add the number of cities you have out on the board. And then you're going to add your production, your tariff production. That's how much money you're going to get. But it's one unrest at the end of the game. Additionally, you're going to get any money that's out here in the holding area. When does money go out in the holding area, you ask? Well, whenever you build a city out on the board, you're going to add $5 into the holding area. And this comes out of the supply. This isn't something that you have to pay. If you build a port city, you add 10 coins into this area. So that's how money is going to go into the holding area. And then just as with the other decks, after you have picked a card and used it, it gets refilled from the draw pile, and so forth and so on. We got 2 more actions to go over. But before we do, we've talked about the 3 resources that you're basically going to be paying for. So you're going to be doing stone, food, and ideas. That's one of the, I guess, population is also a resource you're going to be paying. So there's 4. However, you also have money. You have coins. Coins can be used as any resource except population. You can't use money in lieu of population, but you can use money in lieu of stone, food, or ideas. However, it's at a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you needed to spend, if you had 1 less food than what you needed to do something, you could spend 2 money in place of 1 food to be able to then take that action or buy that card or whatever it is you're trying to do. So it's sort of a generic resource, but you have to spend more of it to equal that resource. Then the next action we have is military. So with military, you basically can do recruit and move. And you can do both of them or one or the other. When you recruit, you are going to pay 5 money, and that's 5 money only. That cannot be supplemented with any other resources, just straight 5 money. Back into the supply, and you're going to get a new military unit that you're going to put out on the board. So that's going to be either your cavalry, your infantry, or maybe if you've researched the siege engine technology, that might go out. When you put a military unit out, so let's say I got a soldier, you're going to put that military unit out into any region. I'm going to make sure that it can be in any region. Nope, it has to be in one of your cities. So I can only put, so this is technically in Italy, so I can only put this military unit here in this region. Now, military units don't go in a particular hex. They just are in the region anywhere. So you can put them, on a hex, but this doesn't block somebody from building a city here. They're in the whole region. And they add influence to the region. For when we do empire scoring, they're going to count to see who has control of that region. And that person is going to get more victory points than somebody else who's in there. So that's how you can place your military units out. You can do that twice. For one military action, you can recruit 2 times. You can also move. And when you move, you're going to have to pay one coin, and then you can move your military unit to one adjacent region. So I can move him over here, or I can move him over here. They also mentioned that Italy and Numidia are considered adjacent. Italy and Greece are adjacent. Hispania and Numidia are adjacent. So I can go from Italy down to here to Numidia, or from here to here. Numidia and Egypt are adjacent, so I can go from here over to here. And however, Greece, which is here, is not adjacent to Egypt. So this is the only, you cannot go from here to here, but you can go from here to here, or here to here. But these two are not adjacent. So let's see. I'll leave that out there for right now. And then that's a military action. The last action you can do is get a government. And I showed the governments earlier. You just have to be able to pay the cost, and then that government, you set that government out on your board, so that it's available for you to use. Like I said, you can flip the tile once per game to wipe one row of cards out and then have it refilled. And that's the round. Those are your 8 actions you can choose from. You're going to choose one action, then player's going to pass to the next player. They're going to choose an action, so forth and so on. We're going to keep going around until we get an Empire scoring card that comes out. Once an Empire scoring card comes out, that player that is currently taking their turn is going to finish their turn, and then we're going to have an Empire scoring round. The first thing that we want to do is we're going to score points for the region on the board. So you're going to go to each active region. That's each region that has player pieces in it, whether it's just cities or military units. And you're going to get 2 influence points for each wonder and city that you own in the region. And you'll get 1 influence point for each town or military unit you own in the region. So in this example, I have a city here. So this is 2 points. And my military guy is 1 point. So I have 3 total points. Nobody else is in there. But let's just say somebody else was there, but they only have 1 city. So I have 3 influence to their 2 influence, because their city is worth 2 influence for them. The person with the second most influence points, so that in this scenario that would be the second person there, they would get 2 victory points. So we would just move them up 2 on the victory point tracker. The first player gets 3 victory points, and then they get 1 victory point for each city and wonder in the region, regardless of who built it. So in the example that I was using, if there's another city in here that another player has built, I have more influence. I have 2 plus 1 for 3. Their city only costs them 2, or only gives them 2. So they would get 2 victory points. I would get 3 victory points plus 1 victory point for each city or wonder in this region. So that would be 1 victory point for my city, and also 1 victory point for the city they had built. So I would actually get 5 victory points total. The 3 plus the 2 for the 2 cities. Your government cards are also going to modify your empire scoring. So you're going to want to keep an eye on those. If you have a government tile, when you go through empire scoring, you're going to want to look at it and see how it adjusts your scoring. After that, the game just then continues, and we keep on going on. You're probably going to want to set those empire scoring cards aside, but somewhere where you can see them, so you know when the third one comes out, so that you can trigger the end game. And as I said previously, it can also trigger if 2 of the 3 stacks in the top right are depleted. Once either one of those things happens, even so, if the two of those stacks deplete, you still do your third empire scoring round. Then you're going to finish the current round. So you do a empire scoring phase. You then finish your current round. So if you're in the middle of a round, the rest of the players get to finish that round, and then each player gets one more turn. So you do one more full round for everybody, and then you go to the end game scoring. When you get to the end game scoring, each city you have out on the board is 2 victory points, and each town is worth 1 victory point. So it mirrors the influence points you get when you do an empire scoring phase. Then you go to your wonder tiles and you score victory points for those. Then you go to your golden age and civilization achievement tiles and score the points for those if you've met the requirements. The golden age you're gonna meet because you do that when you buy it. But the achievement, well, yeah, the achievement tiles you're gonna meet as well when you get them, when you pull them. So then you go to your project cards, and those are the ones that you can buy from the building up here, and those are the ones that usually say, you know, you have to have these 3 specific trade goods, and if you do, then that's worth a certain amount of victory points. So you look at those and see if you completed those. Then you go to any technology cards that may score points based off a certain thing. No, sorry, the project cards are the build cards. The project cards are the ones that say you get like a victory point for each symbol. I was thinking about the manufactory town cards, which is what you score after the technology cards. And those are the ones that say if you have these 3 specific resources, you get a certain amount of victory points. Then you subtract the unrest from whatever cards you have that have the negative victory points on them. And that's your total victory point score. And he or she who has the most victory points wins the game. If there's a tie, whoever has the most money wins the game. And that's pretty much Mosaic, A Story of Civilization. That's the round, or the different phases of the game. It's actually very simple. There's just a lot of choices to do. A lot of things that are going to augment your victory points. A lot of different points to try to go to, or to try to get, basically. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You're going to have your resources over here. They come in 1s and 5s. So you're going to have 1 units and 5 units. These are this is the Colossus edition. So the normal standard edition does not come with these plastic figures. They're going to be tokens. Same thing with your military units. They'll just be tokens. And these will just be tokens instead of the wood with stickers on them. These aren't stickers. They're screen printed. They did come this way. I didn't have to sticker anything. The money is also metal in the Colossus edition. So that's just tokens in the normal game. But yeah, that is Mosaic. At least an overview of and the phases of gameplay for Mosaic, A City of Civilization. Probably going to do a solo playthrough here. I might try to do it this afternoon against the Autonoma, and we'll see how that goes. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys.